Hey everybody, Crafting Journey here, that Journey Chick on Instagram, and on my new channel, The Leftovers. The link is down in the description where you can go and check out that channel. That's where I do reselling and I buy stuff at yard sales and Goodwill and various other places, as you'll learn this morning's video. And I sell it on eBay for a profit. I don't know about the stuff that I unboxed this morning. I don't know. Check it out though. It's kind of a funny video. So I can't find my phone. There's no animal footage today, except I did put in some pearl footage because I thought I filmed it with my iPad. I don't know where my camera is. My phone. I can't find it. Nor could I find Stitch this morning, although I've seen him since the walk. I did find him. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. Anyway, I had a great weekend. I really did. We went to the shower for Jennifer yesterday. She got some amazing gifts for little Jude. It was super cute, and we got to see Jude, and and he's such a little sweetheart. Oh my God, he's so adorable, this baby. You have to see him. So the shower, that went well, and we did it on Google Meet, which it went really well on Google Meet. And there wasn't a lot of people, like maybe 15 people, so it was sort of intimate, and we all got to chit chat and talk. It was very nice. It was almost like a real baby shower. We didn't play any games. Crashley, where were the games? Anyway, that's okay. So, and I had a live yesterday that went very well. Oh my gosh, I did this video. You have to watch that live. I'll put a link to it here. I did a video for The Great Escape, for all the finished diamond paintings that came from The Great Escape. That ends on Friday. We will be doing the grand prizes on Friday, which are two $50 gift cards from Captured by Radiance and a pen from O'Brien's Custom hand turning pen, whatever it is. Sorry. But I want to tell you about the next event. Yes, it's not really an event. Tia's Crazy Craft Addictions, Crafts with Crashley, and myself are going to be starting miniatures. Those are those little things that look like homes. So Tia and I are doing a camper. Crashley wants to do a theater. So Craftably has agreed to sponsor this because Craftably sells these miniatures. So I contacted Michael at Craftably. He's agreed to sponsor this event. We have a discount code for people if you want to purchase a miniature from Craftably. Let me know if you want to just do one of these miniatures along with us. We're going to start November 1st. If you want to, let me know. I'll put you in the messenger group that's going to go with that craft along, and I will put the discount in the messenger group, so you can go to Craftably and purchase one of these miniatures and do them with us. So right now Craftably has 3 listed. One is a camper, the one that Tia and I are doing. Another one is this party home. It's really cool. You have to see it. Balloons and everything. And the other one is a garden. So those are the 3 that are listed right now, but Michael has told me he has others to list. So you might, if you want to wait, that's okay too, and see what he's got listed. But the only way I can give you the code is if you say that you're interested in doing the miniature with us, and I put you in that group. Yes. And that is for the purchase of the miniatures, the code. You'll get 15% off. Yeah. Okay. What else happened this weekend? I think that's a lot. That's enough, right? It's only Saturday and Sunday. My sister went to an air show. She tried to get some footage, but it's very hard to catch these planes in this footage. Because if you're following the sound, the sound comes before the plane or after the plane. I don't know the whole logistics of it. But some of the footage I saw some of the planes, but then the planes would disappear. It was the Thunderbirds. Pretty cool. So she actually went both days. She went to see it again on Sunday, and she didn't have to pay or anything. She just parked near the airport and watched it, which is kind of cool. The Air Force Base, which is not far from us. So let's talk about crafting and crime daily. Yes. First, let's talk about the Nicholas Cruz case. Now, Nicholas Cruz is the young man that pled guilty to murdering 17 people and injuring 17 other people during his mass shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Now, he's already pled guilty to all that. 34, 70 something, I don't know, 70 something charges. 70, yeah, 70 something charges. In any case, the trial is to determine whether he gets life in prison or the death penalty. In Florida, you have to have a penalty phase trial. So this jury was assembled just to determine life in prison or the death penalty. And I've got to tell you, this has gone on for weeks and weeks. Oh my God. So this past week, they had off again because the defense did their surprise, we're resting our case. When in fact the prosecution thought they had 40 more witnesses to present. Now, do I think it was a smart thing to rest when they did? Yes, because I think the jury had had enough. I had had enough. We get it. He's damaged. We get it. You don't have to put on anybody else to tell us. We get it. We believe you. Do I think they did it in the wrong fashion? Yeah, they kept. I showed a video of the exchange between the judge and the defense attorney, and she kept asking them, "Who's your next witness?" And they wouldn't answer her. And finally, she goes to bring the jury in to continue the defense's case, and the defense attorney stands up and says, "We rest." I'm like, the judge is like, "Excuse me?" Yeah. So there was an exchange between the judge and the attorney. So last week there was a motion filed by the defense to disqualify the judge because of her animosity towards the defense counsel, which she denied. She's like, "Nope, I'm not going anywhere." So that resumes today with the plaintiff's or the prosecution's rebuttal case. They're expected to put on experts that will testify that, he knew right from wrong. Yes, he, may or may not be damaged, but, we'll see what the experts have to say. And I agree. After hearing everything that the defense put on, there's a fly. Shoot, fly. Anyway, I believe it. Yes, his mother drank heavily. She used cocaine during her pregnancy. Do I believe that it will affect the brain? Absolutely. I've seen it. I was a neonatal intensive care nurse for many years, and I've seen what happens when a child is born with fetal alcohol syndrome or as a result of cocaine use during the pregnancy. And it does affect their development as the years go by. But this kid had the best. He was adopted by this affluent family and given every opportunity that any kid could possibly have. And he did know right from wrong, and he still chose to commit this massacre. Now, do I believe that he deserves the death penalty? That's not for me to decide. I can honestly say I haven't made up my mind. Isn't that crazy? Like, if I had to sit there as a juror, I don't know if I'd know one way or the other, but I didn't get to go to the crime scene. This jury went to the crime scene, and it was very well preserved, and that may have helped them make up their mind. So maybe if I had gone to the crime scene, I would have made up my mind. I don't know. We'll hear more this week. So let's talk about Alex Jones. Oh my gosh. So last week I told you that on Thursday, the judge had had enough. Alex Jones was testifying. He was called pursuant to subpoena to testify for the prosecution. And he was asked about, calling the judge a tyrant and putting flames in her eyes. And I didn't do that. Well, no, of course he didn't do it. Somebody at his company did. But he condoned it. In any case, he kept answering the questions over his attorney's objection. He wasn't allowing his attorney time to object and for the judge to rule. In one case, she actually sustained the defense's objection, meaning she agreed with him that it was an inappropriate question. But Alex went ahead and answered, and he had been warned several times to stop doing this. So what the judge said was, "I'm going to have a zero tolerance policy on Friday when you retake the stand. And if it occurs again, I'm going to stop the trial, send the jury out, and we're going to have a contempt hearing." right then and there. Your attorney has warned you. I have warned you. Stop doing it. So what do you think happens on Friday? Alex Jones decides he's done. He's not taking the stand anymore for the prosecution. He's done. So it was clear that the plaintiff attorney and the defense attorney had met ahead of time to discuss how are we going to handle this in front of the judge. So when court resumed, they told the judge, listen, Alex has decided he does not want to retake the stand. He's on his way home to Texas. However, we learned he wasn't really on his way home to Texas. He was on the courthouse steps doing a press conference, which the judge later learned about as well. So what the defense and the prosecution kind of worked out was the prosecution said, listen, I really didn't have any more questions that I wanted to ask him. And the defense said, we're going to waive our right to cross-examine him because I'm going to call him during our case in chief, and then I'll have an opportunity to examine him. So the judge says, okay. But then they had no witnesses for Friday because it was expected that Alex Jones would be on the stand all day. Nope, not to happen. He's so manipulative. Incredibly arrogant and manipulative. And when the judge was informed at a later point during the day, they reassembled and she was informed about the press conference that he had. In fact, Law and Crime Network sent a copy of that conference to their attorneys, and the attorneys gave it to the judge to look at, and she's like, yeah. Because Alex Jones believes that these trials are all like a conspiracy against him. Yeah, again, with the conspiracy theories, it's all whatever. The man is crazy. So that trial will resume today with prosecution calling more witnesses. They still need to put more victims on, I believe, because there's 8 plaintiffs, and we haven't only heard from a couple of the plaintiffs so far out of the 8. Now let's talk about the George Wagner case. George Wagner IV is on trial for killing 8 members of the Rodin family. Yes, many of them while they were sleeping. So far what we have heard is last week the criminal investigation or the crime scene investigator has been on the stand describing each crime scene, followed by the medical examiner who would describe the victims at that crime scene and their autopsies. So on Friday, they were discussing the 3rd crime scene, which was the home of Dana, which was Chris Rodin Sr.'s ex-wife, and his 2 children, Chris Jr. and Hannah, who was the mother of Jake Wagner's child. This whole thing has to do with custody of Jake and Hannah's child. There was a fight over custody. So the Wagners get together and decide they're going to kill the Rodin family so they can get custody of this child. So I expect this week we will hear testimony from the mom, Angela Wagner, who is in prison. She worked out a deal. In exchange for pleading guilty, she got 30 years in prison. So she will get out of prison probably when she's in her 80s, if she doesn't die before that. And then Jake Wagner, who was sentenced to 8 life sentences, he pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. But he will never see the light of day. Nope. So interesting side note about these crime scene investigations. Of all the evidence that has been collected at these 3 crime scenes that have been described so far, no DNA has been found for any of the Wagners. Nothing to tie George or Jake or his father, who will be on trial later next year, for the murders of this family. Nothing that ties, been no DNA found. But also, I mean, it's clear that they covered their tracks. They're not finding shell casings. There's a lot of things that they would expect to find that they are not finding. which is interesting. So they really, really covered their tracks. So it's expected today that there will be a description of the last crime scene, which is Kenneth Roden. He lived about 15 minutes away from the other three crime scenes. It's been learned that he was the last victim. The prosecution originally thought he was the first, but he was the last. Why they chose to go over there and kill him, I have no idea. But his son discovered his body. His son was trying to get a hold of him to let him know what had happened over, with Chris Roden Sr. and the rest of the family. And he wasn't answering his phone. So his son gets in his car with another individual and they go to his camper and they find his body. He's been shot in the eye. So we will hear testimony today about that particular crime scene. I'm still hearing airplanes flying over. I would thought all that was over with, but now the prosecution at some point is going to have to do something to tie these crime scenes to George Wagner. Right now the jury has nothing. And if they're going to rely solely on the testimony of Jake Wagner, that's not going to be strong enough, I don't think, because this is his brother. He's expected to testify that George did not pull any of the triggers, but he was present at the crime scenes, which does make him an accessory, and you can be charged with murdering, even though you didn't pull the trigger. Is that going to be enough to tie him to that crime scene, the testimony of his brother? It depends on how believable he is. It depends on whether the jury assesses his credibility and finds him to be a credible witness. Where is this fly coming from? Oh my God. Go away. Jesus. All right, let's talk about finally Lori Vallow Daybell. Yes, last week I told you about the hearing that Lori Vallow Daybell's defense counsel moved to exclude cameras from any further hearings and the trial. So the judge took it under advisement. First, we heard from the defense, and then the prosecution was allowed to speak, and they said, we concur. The problem they had was with a prior hearing where it was a 55-minute hearing, and 30 out of those 55 minutes, the media's camera was focused on Lori Daybell, and rightfully so. She's primping and she's laughing and like totally inappropriate behavior for being on trial for the murders of 3 individuals, including your 2 children. So inappropriate. The defense argued what was the point of showing her for 30 minutes? What was the point? The prosecution concurred and said, listen, we moved this trial. We changed the venue of this trial to avoid media coverage, but you put us in the biggest media market in Idaho. This is happening in Idaho because Chad and Lori Daybell thought, the second coming of Christ was going to happen in Idaho, I guess. I don't know. Yes. So the judge took it under advisement. We also heard from a media attorney hired by many, many media agencies to argue in favor of the right to have cameras in the courtroom. Well, the judge said, I'll take it under advisement. And then Friday afternoon, the judge ruled and said, no more cameras in the courtroom, no video, no still footage. He hasn't decided on whether he's going to allow microphones in the courtroom. I know. No media coverage. We will not get to hear any further hearings, see any further hearings. We will have to rely on the reporters that are in the courtroom. Now, I am following a very prominent East Idaho reporter who promises to be in the courtroom for the trial. Hopefully, I can bring you updates. It's the same as federal. When there's a federal case, we don't get to see what happens we get, those funny cartoons. Can you see those cartoons of Lori Daybell? Yeah. Oh gosh. So we'll get funny cartoons and the, description of what happens from the reporters. Okay. But I'll bring you the coverage. It's supposed to happen in January of next year. Both Lori and Chad are being tried together for the murders of Chad's wife, Tammy, who originally they thought died in her sleep. Her body was later exhumed and they were charged with murder. And then the children of Lori, which is Tylee, who was 17 years old, and little JJ, who was 7 years old. So sad. Their bodies were found in shallow graves on Chad Daybell's property. And it's thought that the murders were committed by Lori's brother, Alex, who is deceased, because he would have been charged as well. There would have been a third defendant, yes. Anyway, so that's that story. And I'm sticking to it, yes. I'm doing this one symbol here that's like few and far between. I'm in a little bit of a confetti section, which means if you're not familiar with diamond painting, that means there's a lot of different colors in one small area. So I have to change the drills a lot. But you'll find them here and there and randomly, as opposed to like a section that's larger like this that just has 2 or 3 symbols, colors. Yeah. Let's talk about this day in history. We're going to go to the trial of Phil Spector, famous music producer Phil Spector. In 2007, he was on trial for the murder of actress Lena Clarkson. Now, earlier that evening, on February 3rd, 2003, he had met Lena at a nightclub where she was the hostess, and she agreed to go back to his mansion for a drink. Now, the chauffeur that took them from the nightclub to his mansion, he just stayed in the car and waited. I assume that he knew he was going to have to drive her home. So he's out in his car and he's waiting, and he hears a gunshot. And Phil Spector comes out with the gun in his hand and says, "I think I just killed somebody." So 911 is called. Officers respond to Phil Spector's mansion, and in the foyer of the mansion is the body of Lena Clarkson. She has been shot in the mouth. Now, Phil Spector has blood splatter on his clothing. I don't know what his defense was. They said he wasn't close enough to have shot her, and they say it was a close range shot. And anyway, the evidence confused the jury. They deliberated for over a week. After 1 week, they came back. They tell the judge, "We are deadlocked at 7-5. We cannot reach a verdict." So the judge gives them the instructions. There's certain instructions they have to be given, and go back and give it the old college try. And so they go back, and several days later they come back and they're deadlocked 10-2. They said, we just can't, we cannot reach a decision. So on this day in history, 2007, a mistrial is declared, and Phil Spector walks for a short period of time. He is retried in 2009, and for that trial, the jury was able to reach a verdict of guilty, and he was sentenced to 19 years to life. Now, he died in prison in 2021 of old age. He was 81 years old. Yep. Now, there were also, I did forget to mention, there were several women who testified during that original case that Phil would bring women back to his home and he would threaten them with guns. And the prosecution's theory of the case was that she had resisted his advances and he had pulled a gun out and threatened her. Now, my question is, if you meet somebody in a nightclub and you go home with them, aren't you kind of expecting some advances? What did she think they were going to do? Play checkers? I don't know. Whatever. So that's the show for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please don't forget to hit the like button. He is going with me to my doctor's appointment today. Yes, he's bringing the tissues. It's a psychiatry appointment. So please give the like button, a boop. Just hit the like button. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, there you go. And subscribe if you enjoy the content, or share it with somebody that you think might enjoy listening to this while they do some crafting. And the notification bell. You don't want to forget the notification bell, because hit all so you don't miss a single episode of Crafting and Crime Daily or any other content I might come out with. I'm streaming currently every evening a game called Disney's Dreamlight Valley. It's just watching me play the game. That's all it is. I'm learning things along with you guys. You guys are teaching me things. I'm teaching you things. It's just an hour of fun. So if you want to check that out, if you've recently bought the game, come join us. Yeah, I'll see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye.